This is Faisal Khan for Lights Out in association with Shamrock Boxing, and this is episode 8 of Boxing Talk with the Sugarman, Shane Mosley Junior. Delighted to be joined by the Sugarman, Shane Mosley Junior. How you doing, Shane?
I'm doing all right. How you doing, fellas?
Doing very well,
yeah, very good. Thank you, Shane.
And back with us after a few weeks, an injury stint, is our main man, Mosi Gulshare, a.k.a. Ron. I was beginning to think he deserted us, Shane, but he's back today. So
It's good to see him.
let's get down to it. Just want to remind the viewers out there, if they haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're following us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and make sure you're following Shane on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, of course. And make sure you check out the previous episodes. Today we're going to do something a bit closer to Shane's heart. We're going to be talking about his old man, Shane Mosley Senior.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, Shane was a hell of a fighter. Freeweight world champion, former Ring Magazine champion, former lineal champion, beat the likes of Oscar De La Hoya, Calazzo, Mayorga, Margarito. Retired with an impressive career record of 49 wins, 10 defeats, 1 draw, 41 of those wins coming by way of knockout. In 1998 was named Fighter of the Year by the Boxers Writing Association of America, and 2000-2001 was recognized as a pound-for-pound king. Shane, my man, first question I have to ask you, what was it like for you growing up having a father such as Shane Mosley Senior?
To be honest, I don't know any different. I've never had another dad before, so I don't know. But I do know that it was different from what I was normally what I would normally see from other people's dads. Obviously I got to go to fights and people acknowledge my dad, so I understood that. But as far as like a dad and who he was to me, he was a good dad.
Did you know, Shane, that you always wanted to be a boxer and follow in your dad's footsteps? Or was that something your dad tried to, some fathers trying to put their sons off in entering the ring? What was that like? I just want to...
So my dad never imposed like boxing on me, just kind of by nature, just, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Just from being around, doing what he does, especially at an early age. My dad got custody of me, so I predominantly lived with him for most of my life. I think at like 2 years old, I was in his custody, so I was always around him. I was always in like the boxing gym. I was always close to that, so it was never imposed on me, but I was always around it, and it was easy to fall in love with. Obviously, you guys love boxing. Boxing is an easy sport to love. The passion, the fighting, everything that goes into that, and it's a great sport. So that's one of the reasons why I fell in love with it. And then when I did join boxing, I felt like it was in my blood, man. Like I love to box, I love to fight, I love to figure things out, I love to, do all these things. Probably because I seen the insight that he had and the way he thought about things. So I kind of adapted some of that as well. But it was most definitely my choice. It wasn't something that was imposed on me. It wasn't something that he told me that you had to do, or even that he didn't want me to do it. It was very neutral, and I joined boxing. I became a boxer.
Ron, hit him up with a question too, please.
Okay. So I'm just tracking back to a very key point in your dad's career. Is we're going to 1997, and this is where he obtained his first world title at lightweight. A win over Philip Holliday. That's a pinnacle of every boxer. That's what they set out to achieve. What did your dad say? What happened? How did life change for him? What happened? From that point when he won his first world title, first of many, actually.
Yeah, I remember him telling me that he was very happy. He was very, proud of his accomplishment. But I think he did want to get a knockout on that fight. I think up until that point, I think he had knocked out everybody that he had faced, or I think one person that he did knock out. But like, I think like going into that fight, I think he was like 17-0 with 16 knockouts, and he wanted to knock out Philip Holiday. So I think he was a little disappointed about that, and the reason why he didn't, or at least he felt that he didn't get the knockout, was because he had the flu. So it was kind of interesting because like he weighed in at 135 the day of the weigh-in, and usually after you weigh in, you come in like 10 pounds heavier, or a little bit heavier the next day. He weighed in the very next day 137, so he gained like 2 pounds. So like he didn't like rehydrate, he didn't kind of have the fuel, so he didn't get the knockout for that. But as far as the fight changing his life and what he felt about it, he was very proud of his accomplishment. And I thought it was a great performance. I thought he outboxed Philip Holiday like tremendously. A lot of people criticized him because they said that, oh, you're not as bad as everybody makes you out to be, because everybody was saying, oh, he's a knockout artist, he's a killer, he's all of these things, and he didn't end up knocking Philip Holiday out. But he came up with a rebuttal, and every title defense as a lightweight, he knocked out everybody. So that was, I guess, his rebuttal.
Okay, good.
Shane, I've always believed that every fighter has a certain fight that really puts their career on the map, and for me, your father fought Oscar De La Hoya twice, and the first fight for me was where I really thought this guy's arrived. You look back at those fights, especially the first one. Those were the fights that I believe really kick-started your father's career. The reason why I asked you this, because of the magnitude of the fight and because of how well your father performed, especially in the first fight. Would you agree with that, or do you think that there were perhaps other fights that might have kick-started your father's career?
That was absolutely the fight that ignited my dad's career. I mean, honestly, a lot of people who fought Oscar De La Hoya and beat him ignited their career. I mean, that's why he was the golden boy, and so people who beat him, kind of took off after that. But absolutely, I thought that was the fight that took him to the next level. It took him to like mainstream celebrity, if you will. He was known by regular people and seen by celebrities and things like that. Not to say that he wasn't before, but it was more so mainstream after doing that fight. After winning that fight, like almost like Andy Ruiz after beating Anthony Joshua. Like you get that fight, you go, whoa, that wasn't supposed to happen. And now Andy Ruiz is noticed. Similar to my dad at that point.
I remember that fight, and I remember how amazing your father's right hand was. He caught De La Hoya with it endless amount of times, and I can never ever forget that 12th and final round. That was just like both of them thinking, you know what, fuck it, let's just beat each other up. I remember a quote from Larry Merchant at the end of round 5 of the first fight. Whatever happens in this fight, people who haven't seen Shane Mosley before are seeing a magnificent, versatile fighter. And that is, for me, will always be the fight that really announced your old man on the boxing scene.
Absolutely. They both put it out there for that fight. And you can see it. And I think that's what made it a great fight. I think that's what even propelled my dad and Oscar because of the performances that they gave. It wasn't just about the winner or loser. It was about the effort that they put in, and they both were trying to knock each other out. They both were trying to win, and you've seen that every single round, every second of every single round. And it's a great fight.
Great fight. One that you can watch again, over and over again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite interesting that your dad started off at lightweight, and he had lot of success there. He was knocking out opponents. Obviously, and he was lineal champion as well in that division. So he had to move up two weights to take on the big fish like the De La Hoya. So I mean, all credit to him for doing that. It's never easy, kind of going up one weight division, but two. My question is follow on from what Faisal asked you. People to this day say that the second fight was a controversial decision. Looking back at that second fight, what were your thoughts? Do you think it was controversial decision? I mean, where do you stand on that all?
I definitely think that it was a closer fight. It was a lot closer fight, and I think also like the first fight. Okay, my dad won a split decision, which in my opinion, he won 9 out of 12 rounds in that fight, in the first fight. The second fight, he got a unanimous decision, and it was a lot closer fight in my opinion. So will we have to do that question again?
Yeah, I mean, like, did you think it was a controversial? Do you think it was the right decision? What was the judgment made by the?
I most definitely think it was the right decision that they made. I just don't think that it was a unanimous decision. I thought that if any fight was going to be a split decision, it was going to be the second fight. Because it was a lot closer of a fight, I feel like there was a little bit more of a, avenue to give to Oscar De La Hoya, at least one judge. I could see it that way. The first fight, I thought my dad won clearly. There wasn't any doubt in my mind that he won. I mean, I watched the fight like probably hundreds, maybe thousands of times, and I can't see that it being a split decision. But that's because at that particular time, Oscar De La Hoya was the champion, and at that time, my dad had already beaten Oscar before. So it's kind of like one of those things, like he already has a win, he should win type thing. So,
I mean, I think I can't remember whose scorecard they brought up on the HBO commentary that night, and I think in round 12 they'd only given 3 rounds to your father. Do you not think that when you look at especially close fights like your father and Oscar De La Hoya, do you not think that people just in boxing these days look more at the momentum rather than more punches that are being thrown and landed?
You know what? I just think that in boxing there isn't a more consistent viewing of judging. You know what I mean? Like I think that's kind of the discrepancy. I mean, if some people like certain things and other people like other things. Some people like aggression, other people don't like aggression, or more boxing. So it just kind of depends. But I do think that they don't have a uniform way of judging things, and I think that's why fights can be judged differently and depending on the fight.
Another guy that obviously will be highly remembered in your father's career is Ricardo Mayorga, a guy that your father fought twice and beat twice. But unfortunately, people will always remember his actions in that press conference in 2015.
Yeah.
A lot of people had Mayorga down as a controversial person, but to do something like that, I thought was was rather disgusting, and it was quite hideous as well. Why do you think he acted like that? I mean, we understand that people sometimes, like to trash talk in boxing, especially at press conferences and weigh-ins, but to do something like that to what Mayorga did was, for me, really below the belt, and it showed a lack of no class for Mayorga, and it just showed that in terms of what he thought about women and the respect that he had towards them.
Yeah. To be honest, I think that he understands that controversy sells fights, and he is great at selling controversy and selling fights. I mean, most people love watching him sell fights. They love the press conference. They love the antics that he does, and I think that he just has that. I mean, I'm not sure if it's particularly malicious what he was trying to do. I think it was more so just he doesn't care. He'll go to any length to sell a fight, and I think that's what he was doing. So disrespectful or not,
Very, very disrespectful. Yeah, 100% agree.
I mean, he was quite. I mean, even in the ring, he was quite outrageous, wasn't he? As well, Ricardo Mayorga, kind of putting his hands down, putting his chin out there, purposely taking punches. I mean, Ricardo Mayorga was a successful boxer, in his time. So it probably did work to a degree. It did probably psych out the opponents, I imagine. And I agree with Shane that it sells, I mean, remember with Mike Tyson, his kind of attitude.
Right.
People were on the edge of their seats, wanting more. Like what's he gonna do next? And we saw obviously Mike Tyson's now. I've been listening to his podcast and he's mellowed out and he's kind of reflecting on that. He's like that guy was an animal, but he misses him as well. So I think it was quite really interesting to watch that. But
question 6, Ron.
Right. Another interesting character, fighter that your dad shared the ring with, Antonio Margarito. So who was obviously scheduled to fight your father in 2009. Mm-hmm. Just before the fight, Margarito was involved in an incident where he was caught with illegal hand wraps. So what was it like hearing news in the dressing room? And, what was your dad's reaction, in regards to that?
He already had his mindset. My dad's mind was already set on what the goal was, what the plan was, and none of that mattered. Like when, like if you go into a situation and you worried about certain things, then that means that other men or situations have a control over your outcomes. But when you're in control of those things, no matter what what he has or what they do, the goal is still winning. I'm still going to win no matter what. That's what I felt going into the locker room, the dressing room with my dad. So when I got to the arena, I walked into the dressing room. Somebody else told me, one of the guys that works with my dad in his corner, told me, hey, this is what's going on. And, so I walked up to my dad. He didn't say anything about that to me. He goes, cause I literally walked in as he was walking out to the ring. And I walk in, he's walking out. And before he walks out to go to the fight, he says, Shane, watch this.
Yeah. Your dad went the professional way about it and got the job done. I remember another fighter who was on the wrong end of it all was Miguel Cotto. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing their face-off that they had after the whole illegal hand wraps situation. And he made amends for that first fight. So, your dad got it done in that first fight.
Yeah. A little side note on that. Miguel Cotto hired Nazem Richardson to come to to watch Margarito wrap his hands.
Brilliant.
Even if it was just for gamesmanship, I think that was pretty dope. He hired him specifically just to check his hand wraps. Good. And I thought that was great because obviously the guy who caught you before might as well be here, and obviously we didn't get the same result as we did in the first fight. Mm-hmm. So obviously it had something was different. You know what I mean?
I look back on that whole incident and I'm surprised how on earth Margarito didn't not get a lifetime ban after that fight.
I don't know how he didn't get like
Arrested.
like like federal charges. I mean, like, what if this guy would have died? Like, what if, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Exactly,
if you were to wear plaster of Paris and fight somebody on the street, you would go to jail for a pretty long time. So it's like, why didn't this man do that? You know what I mean? He clearly is breaking the rules. Like, of course, he's a fighter, and you don't want to see fight. You know what I mean? Like, fighters, you know, go to jail or things like that. But this guy was doing this for a long time. Obviously, you know, like, you don't go for, like, this wasn't a one-time thing. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't wear this for the Mosley fight, you know, for one night. No, you've been doing this. This is not something that we just, like, caught you doing. You've been doing this.
It was I mean, to get caught and then to obviously have previous cases been brought up from previous fights said a lot about Margarito. And to be honest with you, I'm still surprised to this day that he did not receive a lifetime ban in the sports and obviously federal charges as well. But as Ron said, your father reacted in the professional way, went out there and put a boxing masterclass on.
You know what? He did a boxing masterclass. And I think Shane said it there. He said it in an earlier podcast that he just knew. He had that mentality that regardless of hand wraps or no illegal hand wraps or no illegal hand wraps, he's just going to win.
Right.
So, you know, his focus was, you know, where it should be.
And you have to respect that.
Regardless, I mean, nonetheless, you know, I agree with Shane. With the illegal hand wraps, it's dangerous. You know, your boxing is dangerous as it is already. So, yeah, I agree with you as well, Faisal, that maybe it should have been a ban.
Shane, I mean, when looking back at the career of Floyd Mayweather, not many fighters can say they rocked Floyd or gave him a lot of trouble. But your father, twice in the second round of their fight, really rocked Floyd and looked like he was going to knock Floyd out at one point. Honestly, I know I've asked you this before, but I have to ask you again for the sake of the episode. What was you thinking at that point in the second round?
I was honestly, at that moment, I was getting up out of my seat and going towards the back because I thought it was going to be over. Like, I was like getting up, like, all right, it's time to go to the back and go congratulate him in the back, you know. So, you know, I thought that it was a great shot. I thought that, you know, it was close to the end. I mean, most of the time when, you know, my dad hurts people, especially at that time, he was putting them out. So, you know, it just showed how strong mentally Floyd Mayweather is. It showed how good he is, just technically, defensively, of course. It just showed he had a lot of skill, grit, and determination to win. And even after, you can clearly see he was badly hurt, he recovered, and he came back to have a masterful performance. I mean, he pretty much dominated the fight after that. So,
I remember the face-off between your father and Floyd with Max Kellerman, and I think Floyd said something along the lines of, "You're going to have to make me respect you and your boxing skills." Do you think after that fight, Floyd must have thought to himself, "Yeah, I definitely respect him now because of the trouble he gave me during that fight"?
Yeah, I think he respected his power. I think, you know, some things obviously could have been different. You know what I mean? Like, if you know, hindsight is always 20/20. So I feel like if my dad didn't get as hyped up after he knocked him down, I think he was pretty excited afterwards. And I think to start out in general, he was a little tense in the beginning of the fight. So I think that kind of burnt him out going to the end of the fight. Maybe that would have changed some things, maybe not, but I think that would have most definitely, in my opinion, would have helped. So, you know, But yeah, I definitely think that he has respect for my dad's power and respect for his boxing ability. I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So Shane, I mean, you're. Sorry, didn't want to interrupt you there. Were you going to say something, Shane?
No.
Okay.
No,
Shane, your father has shared the ring with, great boxers. I mean, if I could be here all day naming them. But I want to get your thoughts on Canelo Alvarez that your dad fought. Probably late on his career than he would have liked to have faced him.
Yeah.
I mean, what did your dad make of him? I mean, Canelo Alvarez is, he is the golden boy right now. He is the pound for pound king. All the fighters are clamoring to kind of get him in the ring because they know it's a big payday. But I mean, what did your dad make of, kind of going up against Canelo?
I think, I've talked to him about it, and he said that Canelo is a great fighter. He said that he had sharper punches than he expected. Like his punches had a lot of snap. He had a lot of knowledge and great ring IQ, which he said was that he liked. And he said that nobody's ever hit him with that good of a body shot before in his life. He's like, I've never been hit with a body shot like that before, which was the left hook in the to the body. I think he threw a right uppercut, left body shot. And my dad said, I've never been hit to the body like that. He's like, if I could have went down from any shot, that would have been the one.
Do you think your father at a younger age beats Canelo? Because
yes.
I think it's I think it's a different fight if your father's a lot younger.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think I actually think it would have been a great fight. I think it would have been kind of similar to my dad and Oscar De La Hoya. I mean, I think it would have been a similar fight to that. I think the only difference between that fight is Canelo throws better body shots. But at that time, especially at 147, like we're talking about the time that my dad fought Oscar, right? My dad had a little bit more boxing ability. He had more like movement, things like that. You know what I mean? He was a little bit more elusive with his shots, which I think would have given Canelo problems. And of course, Canelo throws body shots better than Oscar De La Hoya. He switches up his punches a little bit more. He sits down his punches a little bit more than I feel like Oscar did. Oscar threw more volume, and Canelo has a little bit more of that, sitting down, and he's really trying to hurt you with some of these shots. So, but either way, I think it would have been a better fight when my dad was younger. But we got the fight that we got. You know what I mean? Like, Canelo is great. Obviously, he's proven it time and time again. So I do feel like he deserves the praise that he's getting. And my dad said, like I told you before, my dad said that snappy punches, great IQ, and obviously hard body shots, as we all have seen.
I think the one thing that I would like, I don't think your dad receives enough credit for. He was a tough son of a gun, your dad. I mean, he didn't go down often in fights. He did lose fights, but he went the full 12 rounds, and he's been in with the best of them as well. So I think he's got a good chin, your dad. It's only towards the later back end of his career where he did, he did lose by knockout. But other than that, and he's been in with, like I said, with the hardest punches.
Yeah. I think it was a good chin, but I think it was more the ability. So I mean the mindset. I think it was more of his mindset back when he was younger in his earlier career. Why he was able to take a good punch. I mean, he got knocked down by Vernon Forrest in the second round, and I mean, if you see that knockdown in the second round with Vernon Forrest, you're like, how did this guy get to the end of this fight? You know what I mean? Like it's like bro, and it's because of his mindset. It's how what he believed, and he always believed that he can knock somebody out. Like if he was in the ring with Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, he would believe that he can knock them out. Swear. Like my dad believes, like if I got in the ring with these dudes, I'm knocking them out, and I can. And with that being said, a guy that believes that, a guy that believes in himself and his ability and things like that, and believes that he has a greater purpose for his life, for his career, can overcome those things, overcome being knocked down, overcome being hurt, or take a good shot, because I know what I'm capable of. And I think that that's one of the reasons why Floyd was able to withstand the shot that he took from my dad, because it's like, boom, okay, yeah, you hurt me, but watch this, watch what I can do. So I think that that's what he had.
I think your father definitely is up there. I mean, you know, freeweight world champion, you know, Ring Magazine champion, lineal champion, you know.
And he didn't duck anyone.
Exactly.
He didn't duck anyone. That's the thing I've got to admire about him.
There's fighters in the world right now that have retired, and they get called out for saying, "Oh, you duck this guy, you duck that guy," but I don't think there's anyone else your father could have possibly have fought in his career, because I believe he fought the best. And even when he was coming towards the end of his career, he was still getting in the ring with the likes of the Canelos. And yeah, it says a lot about your father. You know what?
And I loved his determination that, you know, obviously he lost that fight that you mentioned about Vernon Forrest. Well, guess what? He got back in the ring with him again. Okay, he didn't get the right decision, but it showed his mindset that I want to correct. You know, I was desperate to correct that. Same with Winky Wright as well. He was desperate to correct that as well. But
yeah, I mean, he had no business being in the ring with Winky Wright. I mean, I feel like, and Winky Wright to this day, like, I mean, I've talked to him, and he said publicly, like, I thank God for Shane. You know what I mean? I thank him all the time, because without Shane, you know, giving me an opportunity, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. And it was because nobody wants to fight Winky Wright. It was like, why? He's not the most exciting fighter. If you beat him, you don't really get that much credit. You know what I mean? Especially at that time. So it was like, why would I fight him? So, and my dad gave him a chance, and obviously, you know, he got 2 fights out of it, and you know, his career boomed after that because of it. And you know, he's thankful for my dad for that. But that is because my dad was the type of fighter that he was. Like my dad just wanted to fight everybody, and he just wanted to prove that he was the best. And if you thought that you were better than him, you know, it's like, show me.
Well, I mean, like I've said, it was a great career for your old man. And then obviously I just mentioned at the start of this episode, them fights with De La Hoya, they're fights you could watch all day long. And a massive credit to your father for what he achieved. And genuinely believe you'll achieve the same. You'll get to your goals, hopefully, man. But Shane, thank you for your time. Pleasure as always. And you know what? A real pleasure of you telling us some of these facts, some of these stories about your old man, especially what he achieved in his career. And as always, a pleasure speaking to you. And Ron, thank you very much for your time as well, my man.
Always a pleasure.
That's all we've got time for in episode 8. But if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. But you know what? Do us a big favor. Follow the Sugar Man on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Shane, thank you for your time. Ron, thank you for your time. And I look forward to speaking to you guys in episode 9. But that's all we've got time for episode 8 of Boxing Talk with the Sugar Man, Shane Mosley Junior. Thank you, guys.
Boom.